Good morning, everybody. This is Mr. Derrick Harris, and this will be our speaker for today. So, Mr. Harris, why did you choose your career?
Well, first of all, good morning, everybody. Let me not be rude. I want to say good morning to everybody. Happy Friday. I hope everybody is feeling good. I know you guys are still stuck behind your computers, but I hope you guys are having a good day and looking forward to the weekend. Like Devin said, my name is Derrick Harris. Proud King Drew alum, class of 2008. Thought I should just plug that in there. And I'm happy to join you all. So your question was, how did I get into my career, correct?
Why did you choose your career?
Well, actually, I didn't really choose my career, to be honest. I think my career kind of chose me. So I do fundraising, which means I raise money for people so that they can do things, so that they can start programs, so that they can start nonprofit organizations. But currently what I do is I raise money for the University of Southern California. You guys might know it better as USC. Fight on, Trojans, and anybody's a Trojan fan out there. We're not going to go too hard on you UCLA people or fans that are on the call this morning. But yeah, so I don't really think my career, I chose my career. I think it chose me, and I think it chose me because I'm always, okay, I'm glad somebody's heard of what I do. Good. I'm glad you guys are familiar with it. So, or excuse me, or you all are familiar with it. So, you know, I've always felt like I wanted to give back. I think anything I've ever done, I've always wanted to reach back. Particularly, it was always important for me to support community that were similar to mine growing up, and people who look like me. And not just Black people. Many people wouldn't know that I have a background of mixed heritage, but you know, for all people, all marginalized people, all underrepresented people, I wanted to be a part of that change and make a difference. So I didn't choose my career; it chose me.
Okay. What was your dream career when you were in high school?
Well, one of my good friends, like Dr. Aswad, is supposed to be on this call, but I really wanted to be a doctor. I went to King Drew because I was a science. I liked science. I kind of liked math. And I thought I wanted to be a pediatric neurologist. That was what I was setting my hopes to be. And went to college and undergrad for biology and just took a different course in life. But yeah, I wanted to be a doctor. I thought I wanted to both do medical practice as an actual doctor, a neurologist working on the brain. And then I also thought I wanted to do the research side. So studying the brain, what goes on with children's brains and how do they learn. So, but I found other ways to do that without cutting anybody's head open or sticking them in a, machine or anything like that.
Do you feel like King Drew prepared you particularly well for college?
Absolutely. I think that honestly, my homeschool and where I grew up, my homeschool was Crenshaw High. I'm sure some of you have heard of that. And when I look at my friends, not to say that I have anybody's doing bad, but when we reflect back now that we're older, when we reflect back on our high school experiences, I do see the differences and the opportunities and advantages that I had going to King Drew that some of my friends who went to Crenshaw or went to Dorsey or went to Locke or Jeff or wherever, they weren't really afforded those same opportunities. That doesn't make them less smarter than me, but they just weren't positioned in a way that I was. And so King Drew definitely prepared me for college. And honestly, I hated it. Not like hated it, but I just, the work was hard. I mean, I can remember like struggling. I had Miss Hutch. I don't know if you have Miss Hutch because I don't think she works there anymore, but I had Miss Hutch and she was a hard teacher. It was like having your grandmother as your English teacher, imagine that. And so, she really, but as a writer, I can say now I'm an excellent writer and I can credit that actually back to Miss Hutchinson, and that was at King Drew. I had her for 11th and 12th grade AP English. So
When did you start to see fundraising as something that you should pursue?
Well, I grew up in church, and I was always interested, like, when they would be like, give money for the building fund, and like the doorknob will still be missing, stuff like that. And so I was always curious of how like money worked in organizations, and like when you gave to charity, like what did that look like? Was there like who did that? So I was always kind of curious. But I think when I really, got introduced to fundraising, it was probably like when I was around like 19, and I had became a camp counselor at my church's summer camp. And like our director like up and quit, and like somebody had a crazy idea to make me the director at the time. And so here I am, 19, directing this summer program. I got like a staff and all this, and I had to raise money. We had to do stuff. I had to take the kids on field trips. We had to make sure the program was free. We had to offer the program because it was a part of the Children's Defense Fund, and it was called Freedom School. I don't know if any of you ever participated in this, but we had to do Freedom School, and we had to offer that free to the community. And so because we had to offer it free, as the director and working with my executive director, it was my job kind of to figure out how to raise money. So I started like taking some, I think I took like an online course back when the internet really wasn't that great on your phone. And so I did like this course to start learning how to grant write. And then that turned into me like meeting people and understanding like how to network and like how to talk to people and get them engaged about something that you care about, but also that they might care about too. And so when I started to like put all these things together, and then I realized the actual title for our job for that was a fundraiser, I was like, man, this sounds like something I want to do. If I could walk in a room and somebody hands me a check and I could take that check and then go make a difference, I think that's something that I might want to do. Yeah.
Could you tell us what a general salary for someone in your position looks like?
$20. We make $20 to do our, no, I'm joking. No, the salary range for us is, so in my position, I'm a director of corporate and foundational relations. So in my position, depending on what type of organization you work at, you can start anywhere. The lowest, maybe you could be like at 60,000. The highest, as a director, you might can make like $120,000 a year. I see some questions. I'm gonna get to those too in the chat. And then higher, as you go up in higher ed or into an organization, when you become a senior director or senior executive director, or maybe if you work out of college, you become an assistant dean or something, or a vice president or something like that. You can make 200. Okay, I'll put something in context for you. My old boss, when I was working at UCLA, works for another organization, not a university, but another organization as a fundraiser. And he makes about, he's the vice president of development, which is what they call fundraisers. And he makes probably about $450,000 a year, I'm pretty sure. So you can go high up if you reach that high, sure. Devin, let me see some questions. I got a question with you. Can I?
Oh, my bad.
Wait, who? Okay, wait. Go ahead. All right. And then Lania, let me know if it's okay to put your question out there. Go ahead. Taj, is that your name?
Yeah. Do you ever feel like your financial needs conflict with the emotional needs your job gives, or the emotional needs your job fulfills? Like, do you ever feel stressed, like, oh, I'm not making enough money, even though I love doing this? Or is that just a non-factor?
I think that might actually be a better question for your teachers, but I think a lot of people feel like that in their jobs, where they feel like they don't. Okay, cool. A lot of people feel like that in their jobs, that they don't make enough money for the amount of work they put in. But let me say this too. Don't ever do a job or do something that you're not passionate about and that you don't care about. Because when you go into something that you're not passionate about, or you don't care about, or you could really care less what happens with that job, you're always going to think about the money, because why else do you work? To make money, right? To take care of yourself, to provide for things, to get what you need. So if you don't even care about what you're doing to get what it is that you need, then you're always going to be worried about the money, and you're always going to be stressed out. And your main complaint, and what I always hear about people, particularly people that I manage when they want to move up, you're never going to be happy. No amount of money. I could give you a 70% increase on your salary, and it still wouldn't make you happy because you're not happy with the work. You know, you're really not. You really need to assess and find what it is that you want to do. This is a good job. Don't get me wrong, but this might not be where your gifts and what you need to pour into. That it might not be in alignment with that. Okay. And let me have a question. If you raise money to give to other organizations, how do you get paid? So when I consult on the side, I have a consulting contract, and then I can say how much I want to be paid. Most fundraisers or people who write grants and something will take a percentage of whatever they fundraise, right? No, I would never take 70%. But I think what I would do is, you know, like, okay, say I write a grant, the grant's for $100,000. Okay, I might charge that, or depending on how much work I have to do, it might be an hourly fee, it might be a flat fee. They might hold me on a retainer, which means they pay me a flat fee up front for a certain amount of time, and then I take on projects during that time. There's so many ways that I can make money off of that. So, but again, don't get caught up in the money, because if you do what you care about and you do the work, the money will come. People will pour into you, really. So. All right, I think I'm gonna pause because I got a note that we have another guest.
Yeah, so everyone, I would like to introduce y'all to Dr. I'm sorry, Aswad.
Yep, there you go. You get with it, Derrick.
All right, go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, nice to meet you guys. Sorry, I'm late. Like Devin said, my name is Doc. I mean, it's Yvorn Aswad. I go by Doc, as Ms. Thigpen and Ms. Cooper can testify to. But I guess for almost 2 years now, I have officially been Dr. Aswad. I'm King Drew class of 07. Me and Derrick have known each other since we were in elementary school. He was a year right after me at KD. And yeah, I went to Stanford for college. I was at Drew UCLA for med school. So I don't think I overlapped with many of y'all while I was there at Drew, but if anybody is doing like PHP or any of our like Drew mentoring programs, shout out to the Drew program. But right now I'm living in Providence, Rhode Island, so it's the lunch hour for us. I'm in my second year of residency. And so what residency is just, so I finished med school, and after a person finishes med school, they go on to continue a little bit extra training in whatever specialty or field of medicine they're in. My specialty is a combined specialty in pediatrics, psychiatry, and child psychiatry. So I'm doing 3 board specialties. That's the reason why I left California to come to New England. It's cold in the winter. Right now it's spring, so it's actually kind of tight. And as a California kid, you guys know how crazy it is to say that, oh yeah, 55, it's a warm day today. But that's how I'm feeling right now. It's kind of a weird transition. But yeah, again, sorry for being late. I was my day is a real split day. This morning I was working in the inpatient psychiatry unit. This afternoon I'm going to be working in my primary care pediatrics clinic. So you see just a lot of kind of like duality in the day, a lot of variety in the day. So I'm happy to answer anybody's questions, and of course, like, keep the conversation going. I was going with y'all and Derrick, and just keep it going from there.
How were you guys' careers like before COVID-19, and how has it changed?
Yeah, man.
Doctor.
What'd you say, Derrick?
I just said that's definitely a question for the doctor in the room.
COVID-19, what a game changer. What a guy. What a horrible situation. No, seriously. COVID definitely has been, it's interesting to be an intern, the first year resident at the start of the pandemic. I will say that very gratefully, as a pediatrician, our our patient population has not been as severely impacted as, our colleagues who work in adult medicine, and yet and still just the nature and being around the hospital, how things, so many precautions that had to happen, and things had to change in order to take care of patients. Obviously, and having, patients who lost family members, lost parents behind COVID. My colleagues and co-residents having to like be there and taking care of patients. So it's definitely been an adjustment, and on some just also life development stuff, it's definitely like an adjustment for all of us. Dealing with the stress and the trauma of just being, we are not designed to just be living in our houses for a year. And for what I've been seeing on my side, is like on the child psych side, has been seeing a lot of y'all, like folks in you all shoes, people who are high school juniors, high school seniors, who didn't get to have all those rites of passages that they normally get to have, and how that's been affecting people, like the stress level, the depression level. So we've been seeing that. I think a lot of the, trying to be the optimist, finding the silver lining, is just finding ways for people to like recognize how important it is to like be in contact with one another. So I think that like the hopeful goal is that going forward, we get more of that coming out. But COVID, has shaped certainly the way I practice medicine, the way I'm learning how to practice medicine, as it's affecting, the world.
What motivates you guys to work on your career choice every day?
Yeah.
I talked a lot. Whitebird, go ahead.
You sure? All right. What motivated me and my job, and to go into specifically the field that I go into, again, it's like, I grew up Crenshaw area, LA. We went to school at King Drew. No, we none of us are strangers to what it looks like to be dealing with trauma, to be dealing with the stress, to be dealing with racism, on these like structural levels. And obviously, like, I credit KD a lot with like giving us that language about health disparities, getting all that exposure while in high school, because it set me up for when I was in college to like be really clear about, health disparities are real. It's not just some stuff that you read in a textbook. It's not just a statistic. It's people's grandmothers, it's their cousins, and like having that like real life connection is the thing that like kept me going. And even when like being pre-med was hard as hell, like not fun, not fun. Med school was not fun. It was also just a matter of like, what, this is about purpose. This is about like living the calling. I'm a spiritual person, so I think it's also just it's about praying and like, hearing what God wants for me in my life. But I think those are the things that have motivated me. And definitely it helps when you have like, teachers and administrators, Miss Big Pip, Cooper, the whole gang. Mr. Eagle's not there with y'all anymore, but like so many folks who like ride for you, and makes you have that much more energy to ride for them back.
Yeah, I'll just add to that and say I think Yvorn said a lot, but I think, I find it, I use my life to give back. So what motivates me is just my ability to always reach back and be able to, even if maybe I can't take advantage of the opportunity, it still makes me feel good to create opportunity for other people that might come behind me. And I think that's what's so important as you guys like work in your student orgs and things like that, is setting up something so that people who come behind you have something to look forward to. And I think that's what really motivates me. And to Yvorn's point about even being spiritual, I'm a spiritual person too. And I really think I want to stay in alignment with whatever it is, God or my higher power, whatever I seek power from. I want to stay in alignment with what that is, so that power manifests into everything that I touch, everything that I do. As long as that's in alignment with the power that I'm pulling strength from, that will manifest in everything that I touch, everything that I am, everything that I can become. So I just wanted to add to that.
Okay. Is you guys' workplace people oriented? If so, how do you maintain good relationships with coworkers and or colleagues?
I'll start with that. So yeah, my job is to manage relationships. My whole purpose of my job is to build relationships with people and to get people to, in a lot of ways, trust me, to help guide them in things that they care about and things that they really want to not only invest their money in, but invest their time in. And I think um, it's so important to build relationships and um, be a good person and bring your authentic self when you show up to work in any setting. You should always bring your authentic self. Don't ever change who you are to make people comfortable. People will adjust. And so just show up who you are and then meet the person in the middle. And then with my coworkers and my colleagues, I'm a very collaborative person. The type of fundraising I do, I focus on corporate and foundation relations. So money for I only raise money for from corporations and foundations. But a part of that is building relationships with the people. And so my colleagues on the other side, they do what's called major gifts fundraising. And so they work with individuals to get their individual money. And sometimes it's about bringing our teams together to say, hey, you work with this person, John Smith, and John Smith works at Google. And we want to not only talk to John Smith about personally what he can do or what he cares about, but also he has a role at Google, and how can he utilize his role at Google to support whatever it is that I'm talking to them about, or also just to get them engaged. So I think being collaborative, and I think as you all grow, and as I'm growing, you learn how to be more collaborative and work with one another. Let me tell you, in college, group work sucked because let's keep it real. There's always going to be that one person who never pulls their weight. Your job is to never be that one person. Your job is to always be the person that got your weight and can also help the other person who can't carry the weight. So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, and then I'll just like add on that like medicine is a collaborative sport, regardless to like if you are a nurse, one of the therapists, one of the physicians, um, one of the technologists, one of the just administrators, maybe not administrators, they don't play fair with everybody else, but all this to say, you have to be collaborative. My workspace is pretty collaborative. We have a lot of fun together. And it's kind of you have to when you spend like 80 to 100 hours a week with a person, you basically live with them. Like I was gonna do this call in our call room today, just so you guys can see like the literal beds that we sleep in when we stay overnight at the hospital. But I'm in one of the workrooms right now. But also I saw Miss Cooper put in the chat. Isn't it so funny how the chat is a thing that we say now? But anyway, she put in the chat a question about fast tracking, and I just want to say, whew, what a question, right? Because honestly, guys, I'm 32, so for most of you, I'm twice your age, which is just astonishing. Because somebody the other day said something like 2003 was 18 years ago, and I was like, did I really almost start high school 20 years ago? How does that make sense? But it's something to be said about like living and experiencing and appreciating life, knowing that life, while it is short and precious, it also can be expansive when you're trying to move with a little bit of intentionality, or when you're trying to just move with appreciation of what's going on, right? And not trying to be focused on like, just do what's next, just do what's next. That's easier said than done. But like, just I'm trying to tell you guys now so that you have some time to practice and work on just like sitting with yourselves and just realize I'm running my own race. To be honest, like if you want to get into a career in medicine, and specifically in career medicine as a physician, the fastest way you can get there is if you decide that you know for sure you want to be a doctor and you apply to some of the programs that are like 7-year combined, so 3 years of undergrad and 4 years of med school. But there's so few of those programs, and honestly, they're a little bit of kind of regiment, so you don't really, you don't get a chance to know yourself because your whole world is just being a doctor. But so the traditional route is 4 years of college, 4 years of med school, and then however long for residency. So the shortest residency is 3 years. So in total, you're looking at from the time you say finish high school and the time you're done with all of your training, your undergrad, your med school, and your actual residency. That's 11 years. So at best, you can be like 29, which is great. That's a fun age, believe me. But the thing about it is, if you were focused on just rushing through, you might not spend time to like figure out what is it that I love, what is it that I'm passionate about. And also, very importantly, if you just rush through, you don't give yourself time to fail. And you don't give yourself time to learn from failure. I took 4 years off between undergrad and med school, and in large part of that was because I had, failures that I had to learn from as a college student. But it prepped me so much for like going to be a med student and realize that like there's no such thing as an ultimate failure, right? The only ultimate failure is your choice to and I was about to say your choice to not move on, but honestly, if you make a choice to not move on, then that's not even failing either. You made a choice to just not do something, right? It's so much just but you only get that lesson when you kind of go through some stuff, you get knocked down a little bit, and you just be able to pick yourself up and brush it off. So a lot of long-winded ways of saying like you gotta like be comfortable running your own race, realizing that sometimes things aren't going to go the way you expected them to, things aren't going to go the way you planned them to, and that's totally fine. You just got to do the thing that's best for you. And for anybody who heard me say it's 11 years from the start of training to the end in Bristol, it's okay. Those 11 years will pass. You will be fine. It might feel like it won't. It might feel like, holy crap, that's a lot. I felt that way at one point too. I'm still not done. I still got 3 more years. I still feel that way with only 3 years left. But also it's okay because you're doing what you want to do. And like Derrick mentioned earlier, when you're in that alignment, all the stuff around you is just going to manifest.
I like to add to that too, because, I think, Dr. Aswad, being a doctor is such a straightforward. You kind of know the groundwork to what to do to be a doctor, right? On my side, I wanted to be a doctor. I went to school for biology. I was a microbiology major. I have a public health background, and that just didn't work for me anymore. And I had to adjust. And I think that's okay. Sometimes we have a plan and we have our minds made up, and sometimes for me, when I decided that I didn't want to do medicine anymore, when I told myself, because I was a public health major and a minor in biology, let me be clear, is that I didn't want to just treat. I wanted to actually figure out ways to keep people out of the doctor from going to see the doctor. I wanted to focus more on the preventive medicine side. And so then I started focusing my energy there. And then I said, well, actually, it would be cool to figure out how to change organizations. And so that the public health organization can do what it wants to do. And also on a hospital side, you have people who run a hospital who tell doctors there's an administrative side to medicine and health too. And so I had this conversation with myself where I had to adjust and say, well, what is it that I want to do? And I think what's so great about Yvorn's story is it took 11 years to be a doctor. It could take 11 years, 15 years to be anything, right? Because here I am, I'm going to be 31 soon, and I'm getting ready to finish up my doctorate. Now, in my head, 10 years ago, I was supposed to be done with school, my bachelor's, my master's, and my doctorate by the time I was 30, right? Which is kind of crazy, but also, you have to be willing to adjust and just find your path and what it is that you want to do, and know that if it's something you're interested in, learn about that and learn what the pathway and the trajectory is for that, because that'll make you feel better if you can see where it is and what you're interested in, where you can go. Even if you're an entrepreneur, if you decide you want to be an entrepreneur, having a plan and being able to maybe envision where you want to go will help you stay focused and help you adjust every time something new comes along that might throw you off from that. It's not that you're not destined to be that. You're just adjusting to the pathway to get to that. So I think that's what I would add to that.
Question. This is mostly for the doctor, since he is not in California, so he's in a place I would consider having, I'm like, more racial issues. But would you say you face any, I'll just say racism, but it can be any microaggressions as well. Do you face any racism in your workplace? And due to the lack or abundance of it, do you see longevity in your career? Like, would you ever be like, I can't do this, I'm in Boston, uh, you know, I just got called the N word while going to get some clam chowder. Like, I can't do this anymore. Has that ever has that ever been a thing, or is it a thing now?
You asked me a real question today, and I'm gonna answer the real question since you asked me, good brother. Yeah, first and foremost, shout outs to Chester Pierce, who is a Black psychiatrist, rest in peace, one of my academic forefathers, who actually is the man who created the term microaggressions. To be very clear, let's not sugarcoat the idea of microaggressions and try to make them as small racism. Microaggressions are racism. So just in responding to your question, just realizing that like racism is racism in all of its facets, in all of its forms. We got to call it out and talk about it. And that's my African American Studies minor soapbox that I'll come off of right now. But to say absolutely, the unfortunate part is we live in a racist world. America's a racist country. Medicine likes to pretend that because it's scientific, therefore it's objective. When we all know the truth, as I said before, these health disparities exist, and it's not just because, you know, it's not just because that's the way it is. It's because they're a product of systemic racism. So I encounter racism all the time in my work in the ways in which I'm taking care of my patients when I'm dealing with my psychiatric patients and just saying to myself, like, how did this person go this long and stay this sick and not get help that they need? That's because of racism. When I'm dealing with like little kids and dealing with some of their issues and their access, like that's systemic racism. But the parts that become obviously the things that people get really affected by are those interpersonal reactions. And unfortunately, yes, I've had them. I've worked in the NICU and had nurses, you know, ask us to like test the urine of a baby to see if they have drugs in their system off of the fact that they're a kid of color, right? And just assume that the mom was doing some drugs, and they would never ask us to do that for the white babies. And I'm bringing up the fact that like there's racism happening at the time these children are born, just to say that this is the trajectory for these children's lives. They're marked by virtue of the color of their skin. Where I'm at over here in Providence, it's like interestingly enough, there's a very like we have it's a very diverse city, and especially like we got folks from all over the diaspora. We have like folks from Black Americans, Sierra Leoneans, Ghanaians, Kenyans, Tanzanians. We got uh, folks from the Dominican Republic, folks from Puerto Rico, folks who are Cape Verdean. I never met a Cape Verdean person until I moved here, and then I got like all these frat brothers who are Cape Verdean. So it's like it's crazy. Um, but all this to say, I've encountered racism even personally with nurses saying racist things to me, patients saying racist things to me. A mother who didn't want me to take care of her child because of because she didn't want a black man to touch her child. Those types of things are painful, you know. Those things clearly matter and affect me. But the one thing that I'll say to answer your question about do I see the longevity in my career, and I don't foresee those things making me stop doing what I do. In a lot of ways, they encourage me to do more because our patients deserve, our people deserve, and after that, we gotta tear this system down in one way or the other. So yes, the only thing that I see this impacting is that I'm not going to be practicing in Providence, Rhode Island for the rest of my life. But to be quite honest with you, when I was back home in LA, yeah, I definitely encountered some, racism is there too. California likes to pretend like, we're a great liberal state and, we know what's up. So all that to say, man, thank you for that question. I really do appreciate its insight, and I'm not trying to say any of this to any of you all to discourage you. I am just reminding us of like the legacy that we inherited, the great strides that many people have made in this war on racism, and the fact that it's our turn to pick it up. Like millennials and Gen Zs, like we've been, hello, did you see us out in these streets last year? Like that's people born 1980 and after, just like doing it. So shout outs to us.
Thank you.
So unfortunately, our periods are running shorter today, and we need to send our students off to their next class. We'd love to have you join us again.
Ms. Cooper, so good to see you.
Oh my gosh, I love
Yeah. Such a pleasure joining you all this morning. And Dr. Aswad, always a pleasure seeing you, man. I'm glad you're doing your thing, man.
Have fun in period 4, everybody.
it.
Don't be late. Is that a thing now? Do they have like a card? Do you get detention if you're late now on Zoom? How does that work? They hold you in a breakout room if you're late? How does that work?
Right.
You send them back to the waiting room. No, they have all sorts of reasons why they can't show up on time. So,
Is that an exit ticket for everyone, or is that just for Miss Soto's class?
That's for everyone.
oh, that's the Google Form exit ticket, but I know some people were leaving. So because some people have a tough teacher and they will be held accountable if they are late.
All right. Thank y'all for answering my questions. Have a nice day. You too, Ms. Cooper, Ms. Soto, Ms.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
Right, yeah, I really get it. Okay, Ron, I'm going to go for it. Bye.
So
I'll see y'all. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. You have a good one too.
Oh my gosh, I didn't want to
End it.
end it.
Oh.
So yes, if you